Whew. I feel like we all need to decompress from this week. This was one of the longest weeks for myself professionally and for Browns fans. Some of this had to do with the Browns coaching search. Some of this had to do with just me being at East West, being at the Senior Bowl. But this has been a long week, and I don't know what I'm going to name this video, but I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to decompress and talk about everything that happened throughout this week, and really just ask a simple question to myself and to all of you at home, which is it possible to still have hope for this franchise? Because it feels like that feeling has been ping-ponging in the hearts of Browns fans since like week 15 of this last season. It feels like every single thing that happens with this team, people are so close to the edge that it causes what feels like a overreaction to specific things, because people just aren't reacting to one thing anymore. They're reacting to so many things, right? Like the first thing that happened was like this soft deconstruction of the first semi-stable era of the Cleveland Browns that many of us have ever witnessed. And I feel like what was frustrating about witnessing that soft deconstruction was you weren't even allowed to acknowledge it to some Browns fans, because some Browns fans would just immediately yell at you for ever thinking that like Kevin Stefanski is a good coach or something like that, right? Or they would shout to you like 25 million Paul, or was it Paul? DePodesta conspiracy theories to you. So like you're kind of like wary because you're watching this franchise kind of decompose when they've been pretty stable over the last 5 years. And I think that has a lot of us who know what it's like when this franchise has no direction, when this franchise is truly being led by ownership. We know what that's like. Okay. And legitimately would prefer anything to that. I was talking to other writers at East West at the Senior Bowl, and I brought this up multiple times. What we're experiencing right now is not great, but what the Browns were from 2013 to about 2019, that was the most dysfunctional the Browns organization had ever been. And that was the most difficult it was to root for a team. And I know like every time something bad goes wrong with the Browns, people are like, oh, this is the most difficult time it's ever been to root for the team. But I lived through worse times, right? Like this is not great, but it's certainly not the worst. Like Myles Garrett is playing like a superhuman out there. Like there are worse things. There have been worse Browns teams to be motivated for. So you got to deal with that, right? You kind of got you got enough time finally with a organizational structure to get used to it, to be comfortable with it at some extent. And then it crumbles over the last 2 years because the offense that Kevin Stefanski is running can't get past a certain point of expected mediocrity, right? And that was the crazy thing with Kevin was like, hey, we expected mediocrity, and he could not get to that point. He was under the expectation, and the expectation was low. So you deal with that. You have to get rid of Kevin Stefanski. in my opinion. I know other people differ, but I think the numbers were glaring for Kevin. And I hope Kevin does well in Atlanta. I think he can be a good coach, but I think the reality is, for whatever reason, he was not who he used to be in Cleveland. And I don't think it was all about the personnel that he did not have. I think it was more. So that leads us to the coaching search. The Browns have been, stretching this coaching search out deliberately kind of till getting to this week. Like they were building up the entire coaching search to get to this week. And a lot of people expected it to go one way. And depending on who you talked to, right, there were some people who were expecting it to go to Jim Schwartz. There were some people who were expecting it to go to Shieldhouse or Udinski. Obviously, the coaching search, the higher it goes down, the way it goes down. And it just leaves us all asking the same question. Is it possible to still have hope for this football team? Now, some people are going to point to ownership immediately whenever I say something like that and go, we can't have hope until ownership changes hands. I just don't buy that narrative. And I'm not a defender of Jimmy Haslam by any means, but I'm going to be real with you. If they announce that Jimmy Haslam sold the team tomorrow, I don't think that changes anything about like how I feel about the Browns' ability to be successful over the like long term. Maybe in the short term because we spend more money or something like that. But in the long term, I don't really think it changes anything. I talked about this in, I think, my hot takes video. So if you want the more extended reason of why I believe this, you can go watch it. But nobody's buying a team that knows football anymore. Like, think about how much money you need to buy a football team. You need like $10 billion to buy a football team. You don't make $10 billion knowing football, right? So whoever buys the team is going to be much like Jimmy, exactly like Jimmy, right? They're going to be another billionaire who made billions of dollars about something not football related, who's going to buy their way in to the most powerful position on the team, and they're going to have power, and they're probably going to want to exercise that power, and that's going to lead to disastrous results. You can't wish your way out of ownership because this is just what ownership is in the NFL these days. All 32 teams are dealing with it. TLDR, I don't think any team in the NFL has good ownership or ownership that's helpful towards football operations. So it's just a hurdle that everybody has to clear. And I think it's very possible to win a Super Bowl with the dog shit owner. Didn't Art Modell win a Super Bowl? He's the worst owner in NFL history. He won a fucking Super Bowl, right? Like, and even if before that, he got the conference championships. Like, you don't have to be good at ownership or have a good owner to have success or to win a Super Bowl. Well, Mickey Loomis won a Super Bowl. I don't care how good the owner is. I think everybody's overcoming their dog shit owner. On some level, it's a different struggle for different people, but it's still a struggle. It's still a hurdle that you have to overcome. I don't think it's unique to the Cleveland Browns. So I don't really buy that as an excuse. Like, yeah, the Browns have a meddling owner who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, but so do 31 other teams, and that's not enough for me. 33 teams, there would be 33 teams with shitty meddling owners, right? Like, that's just what it is in modern sports when these teams are as expensive as they are. And look, this problem's not going away anytime soon. Again, I talked about this in my hot takes video. If you want to hear more about how I feel, go check that out. But I don't really buy the whole ownership thing. So that's not something that makes me not be able to have hope, right? The quarterback thing is a little bit more difficult because right now it's hard to imagine how the Browns get to a respectable place at the quarterback position. given that their options feel very, very limited at the moment. Um, what does give me hope on this team is the young talent on the roster on both sides of the ball, right? And the fact that the Browns have been drafting well over the last couple of years. That gives me some hope that they can build this thing into a place where they could be a good landing spot for somebody that might be ready to figure it out, right? Maybe that's where they have a run like the Seattle Seahawks, where the Seattle Seahawks were a pretty good team. They had Geno Smith. They thought they could get better at quarterback. They make an aggressive move for a guy like Sam Darnold who becomes available. And then boom, they catapult to the Super Bowl because they had all that talent there already. Maybe that's the path going forward for the Cleveland Browns, is to get some talent, get to a baseline, find somebody who could play quarterback for the time being, and then take the swing on somebody you think can be a little bit better. And then hopefully that takes you to where you need to go. It's kind of interesting being a Browns fan because, like, you'll hear a lot of people complain about how it's never easy for the Browns. But part of why people love being a Browns fan is because it's not easy, right? Like, being a Browns fan at this point, you're not a Browns fan because you like to live life with no challenges, right? You're not the kind of person, if you're a Browns fan, that plays the game on rookie or plays the game on easy. You play the game on hard. You want to be on expert because you don't mind the struggle as long as you can get to a reward, because you know that working for it is going to make it feel a lot better at the end of the day. If you wanted the easy way, you would be a Golden State Warriors fan, or, a Alabama fan back when Nick Saban was there, or a Patriots fan, right? Like, you would do the easy thing. It will be very easy to do that. But nobody sticks with the Browns because they like to do the easy thing. They stick with the Browns because they like to do the difficult thing, because they know what the reward is. So it not being easy doesn't stop me from having hope for this team. Hey, have you heard of the Sleeper app? It is a place where you can go to play fantasy football. It's also a place you can go to do picks. You can put your knowledge on the line, make some picks, and see who knows ball the most, and maybe even, be rewarded for your knowledge. Go on the Sleeper app. Make sure you sign up using the promo code Worst Take, and you'll get 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code Worst Take. Make sure you check out the Sleeper app. What's interesting? In some ways, this Browns team, since 2020 especially, this is the closest they've been to being like almost good at certain points. And it's like the closer the Browns get to that point, the further away you feel, because it's kind of like going to a Super Bowl and losing, right? Like, if you do the climb and you get through all the grind and then you get right there, right up close to it, and then you miss. And then all of a sudden you realize just how much work it takes to get to that place. You start to realize how far away, once you miss, you truly are from it. And I think that's where we are as a fan base. Like, a couple of years ago, we really thought they were this close to really having an established identity, really figuring things out, and then boom, coach is fired. You have a head coach search to replace that guy that has a lot of reports that don't inspire a ton of confidence. And you feel like you're this close from Jimmy Haslam calling Corn Ferry up and hiring a new GM and new head coach and going back to square one. And we know how long it took for us to go from square one with Jimmy, which was pretty much the first 5-10 years of his ownership, to the point that we got to in 2023, where we thought that the Browns could actually be a respectable organization. And we know how far that fall is and how long it could take to climb out of that. And I think that has really fucked with the psyche of a lot of Browns fans, if I'm being honest with you. And I can't sit here and act like I don't understand it, right? You know, Kevin Stefanski not working out, I got to say was real, right? I can't sit here and lie to you about Kevin Stefanski, but I would be lying if I said that Kevin not working out wasn't something that I found to be kind of heartbreaking. Like, I didn't want to sit up here and be like, hey, Kevin has to be fired. But what he put on the field, you can't deny it had to go. And that's heartbreaking because I thought Kevin was going to be the coach for the next 10, 15 years. You know, if the same thing becomes true for Andrew Berry next year, that'd be heartbreaking as well. It's what it would have to be done if he doesn't prove himself to be a good GM over the next year. But it would be heartbreaking because it's like, oh, we thought we had a chance at stability, right? It's like when Baker didn't work out. Regardless of what you thought about Baker, that was sad. It was nothing fun about having to let Baker go because it's like, damn, you came really close to having something there, but just not quite enough. And I think the fan base is recovering from being in that place since like 2018. And now we're wondering just how far are we going to slide? Which brings me back to the original question. Is it possible to have hope for the Cleveland Browns? I think so. Is it easy to have hope for the Cleveland Browns? Hell no, it's not easy. But we're not in it for easy. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be a Browns fan if you were only in it for easy. It's not easy, but it's possible. You know, the Browns have a very good defense. They have some young, talented players. They have a lot of draft picks coming up, some money they can spend. You know, if they play their cards wisely, they could, in a couple of years, faster than you would think, do what the Seahawks did. You know, and I'm talking about like do what the Seahawks did over the last 3 years, where they get better and better and better, and then boom, you know, they have the breakthrough. They could have that happen for them. That certainly could be possible for the Cleveland Browns. It's going to require some things going right. In some elements, it's going to require straight up luck, right? Like there's no championship runs that have ever happened that were luck free. It's going to require some luck. It's going to require a lot of things, but it is possible. So why do I have hope going forward for the Cleveland Browns? I think it is because they have those young, talented pieces on the roster. I think it's because even though this team is not that good, they have some of the best players that I've ever seen the Browns have in uniform still. And I know that if they get some supporting pieces to it, that's going to make things better. And most importantly, if there has been anything consistent from ownership to general manager on down, that's been the message for this offseason. They have at every turn told us that they're going to spend money, draft picks, and other assets on the offense this year. And that is an approach that I agree with. And I think that makes me feel like they're on the right track. So, yeah, I still kind of have hope for the Browns. Maybe I'm a little exhausted. I think we're all exhausted. But I hope that they could play well enough to where we remember that there is something to be hopeful for there, right? Like if you look at the Browns' last 2 seasons, even though they've only won 8 games, they, with a better offense, could have probably won 10 games both seasons. If you look at like some of those close games that they lost. They're not that far. It just feels like they're that far. And I think if they just get better on offense, which they're going to commit a lot to, they could surprise some folks. But we'll see what happens. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.